Hello everybody! Welcome back to the last recipe of Mexican month, and today it is homemade nachos. So you will be needing 1 cup of plain flour, 3/4 of a cup of cornmeal / polenta, 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, roughly 1/2 teaspoon of salt, but this can be adjusted according to personal taste, a generous dash of black pepper, again more or less according to taste, 4 ounces of hot water, not boiling, 2 to 3 teaspoons of vegetable oil. So to start it all off, put your flour in a bowl and add the polenta / cornmeal. Next add your baking powder. Now add your salt. And last of the dry ingredients, the black pepper. And now, of course, you're going to want to mix it all together. So then you're going to be wanting to add your 2 wet ingredients, that being the hot water and the oil. And now it's time to mix your liquids with the dry ingredients to make a dough. It is typically a tiny bit dry, so once I've used a fork or a spatula to mix it at first, I will then start kneading it with my hands. Now if it's a tiny bit too dry to completely knead into a ball, you can add a tiny bit of water just to get the crumbs together and mix them into the ball as well. Once you're done with that, coat it with oil, wrap it in cling wrap and let it rest for 10 to 15 minutes. Now this is one of those really brilliant ideas that you wish you could proudly say was your own. This isn't, I learned it from someone else, but I love it so much. So basically you wipe the bench top with water, and then you lay a sheet of gladwrap or a couple of sheets of gladwrap over the counter. And what that does is when you're kneading your dough, you're kneading it directly onto the gladwrap, and so when you're finished and there's flour everywhere and stuff, you just fold up the gladwrap and throw it away, and the counter underneath will only need a quick wipe. Now how many times have we made bread dough and kneaded it directly on the bench and had sticky clumps and messy sponges that we've had to throw away after cleaning up again because it makes such a crazy mess. So after you have set up your clean kneading area, you're going to want to grab your large ball of dough and break that up into 6 individual pieces and roll them out into smaller balls of dough. Make sure to coat each small ball in a little oil again, and now you're going to want to roll it out, either pressing it out with your fingers in the palm of your hand like so, or you can use a rolling pin, however you want to do it. I kind of did a bit of both. If you are going to use a rolling pin, you don't really have to be too fancy about it, and I'm probably a terrible person for this, but I literally just used my old plastic coffee cup from BP. It worked well, and you may have noticed also that that's a rubbishy circle, but since I'm going to cut them up into uneven, quirky looking chips anyway, it doesn't really matter about whether it's a complete circle sort of thing. The thing that really matters most is that you roll these out as thin as you can, because then they'll make really nice and crispy chips. After this, you're going to fry them in a frying pan. You don't need to add any extra oil, and just cook them on both sides for roughly 2 minutes until you can see the dark little spots, which means that it's cooked nicely all the way through. You can use a special pizza cutter like me if you like, or just like cut it through with a pair of scissors, or use a knife, whatever you want, and cut them up into rough sized chips. As you can see, I'm not doing them evenly or anything. There's no need to be fancy about it. Like, they're going to be covered in sauces and cheese and stuff anyway, and they look cooler if they're like varying sizes and different shapes, etc. So just keep on cutting and cooking each piece of dough in the same way until you get a nice little pile. And now for the homemade guacamole recipe. So first up is 1 large ripe tomato pulverized into a pulp, 3 avocados, try to get them very ripe but not super soft and bruised, the juice of 1 large lime, a handful of freshly picked and chopped coriander, 1 small red onion finely chopped, 1 chili, red or green, de-seeded and finely chopped. Keep in mind that the smaller the chili is, the hotter it'll be. Tip the pulverized tomato into a bowl. Pour in your avocado and mix it with the tomato. Now keep it in mind that this is going to be a chunky, full of texture guacamole, so you do not need to mix it perfectly or have it really smooth. It's meant to be all lumpy and chunky. And now, tip every other ingredient listed that you have ready into the bowl. Once you're done adding every single other ingredient, you can mix it all up. So here is the resulting homemade guacamole. It's not smooth at all, it's really chunky, it's really fresh, and it actually tastes so good. For anyone wondering, the avocado pip stuck in the center there is to help the avocado and the guacamole to last longer in the fridge. So this is the nacho chips after they've been fan baked at 150 degrees in the oven for roughly 10 to 12 minutes. So of course after that you are going to want to sprinkle cheese all over it and rebake it in the oven until it looks something like this. So basically you want the chips to be baked until they're really crispy and crunchy. It's a really plain recipe, but I prefer plain. That's actually why I made them. I don't like the store tortilla chips. Now a friend and I sampled these when I first baked them, and we both agreed that the chips and the guacamole both tasted really good. So you have to try it out. I hope you enjoy it, and I will catch you later.